Hi guys, welcome back to CMD and another video. You join me back here at Porsche Centre Nottingham with this paint to sample olive green Porsche Macan S. Comfortably one of the biggest selling cars in the range. Not something I would naturally associate with the Porsche brand. SUV that is defined by Porsche as a 911 on stilts. High praise, admittedly, but can't live up to the hype. I'm here to find out. This one in particular is a Porsche Nottingham demonstrator car, but it's got some really other trick kit around it that isn't necessarily as obvious as its paintwork. The RS Spider alloys are painted in satin black, which is not something available from factory. That's something Porsche Nottingham have done themselves. Inside we've got exclusive mamba green stitching and a painted sport design kit. Now, people in the know describe the GTS as Porsche's sort of best of best. However, I'm advised that actually the Macan S is the one that a large majority of people go for, and rightly so. So the 3-litre twin turbo engine is punching out less brake horsepower than a GTS spec, and a bit more of a compliant ride, which apparently suits the car's character a little bit more. So there's only one way to find out. Let's go for a drive. So I spent a good 15 minutes in the car really just trying to familiarise myself with characteristics and what's going on, because there's an awful lot different from some of the other cars I've sat in. Let's just talk about a few things that are going on here. We've got contrast stitching, Porsche crests in the headrest, and an awful lot of very special equipment in this car. In fact, a large majority of everything you see, both inside and outside, from black roof rails to body kits, the seats that I'm sat in, absolutely everything is option in this car, and it really tells because there's a real high quality finish, extended leather, absolutely everywhere. But interestingly, in the Macan, I'm sat somewhere between a Cayenne and not even the current gen 911, but actually the 3 dials in front of me are actually almost straight out of the 718 Cayman / Boxster that I've just come out of. Now, I would argue, interestingly, that that's a bit of a best of both, because I'm not a huge fan of the 5 dials I've got in my 992 Carrera S, because you can't see the far 2. So actually the 3 dials is simplified, easy to follow, big fan. It's previous tech on the far right screen, but then when you go to the screen, and as I've done that, the screen's recognised that I'm looking at it. You know, you've got the highest level of sat-nav and communication, and that is straight out of a Cayenne. So I'm actually a big fan of the interior. It's a bit of best of both. Bit of Kingsmill 50/50. Big fan. There's enough buttons to keep it nice and simple, but not too much that the cabin's busy. So it's not like a Cayenne where you're sort of riddled with all of those buttons. And I have to say, the ride is very plush. So when I've read about these cars previously, I've read the things that some of you may have read. It's the previous generation Q5 undercarriage. The car's actually not that great. I've heard a number of people go to town on it, but it is one of Porsche's best-selling cars, along with the Taycan. So that tells you something, in that either there's lots of people who want mini SUVs with a nice premium badge on them, who don't want to buy the Q5, but you are paying an awful lot for something if it's not that good. And I'm not convinced that's the case. I have to say, immediately I'm more impressed with the standard of absolutely everything in here, from steering wheel to seats to ride itself. All of it is very, very high quality. The soundproofing is phenomenal. The car's so quiet inside, it's very easy to deal with, live with. I have a 7-speed PDK gearbox, which is standard Porsche. This car also has Sport Chrono, so I can toggle between normal, Sport, Sport Plus and individual. I can obviously set all of my individual on my screen. Bose sound system. There's a little bit much high gloss black in here for my liking, personally, just because I have a family and they would ruin it. But driving through this sleepy little village, it's very at home. Let's go find some windies and find out what this thing is like when you give it a bit of stick. And away we go. Sounds fantastic. Wow, wee does it move. So for a turbocharged 3-litre 6-cylinder, does quite a nice impression of a naturally aspirated. You're aware the turbos are working, but the build up the rev range is actually quite gradual. I suppose because of the car's weight and the power output, it's never going to be a rocket ship, is it? But I mean, let's do it justice. Oh wow, okay. It's a bit more direct than I was expecting, especially in these conditions. Yeah, it's definitely got a bit of that Porsche DNA. I don't feel bored witless. It's got a compliance to it and an ability that you wouldn't normally expect from an SUV. And I suppose potentially that's what's being missed, isn't it, on some of these reviews, is that there's an element of dynamics to this Porsche that mean that it will engage you when you want it to, because it has got that Porsche sort of DNA built into it, if you like. But then it can be the kids in the back school run car. Don't get it twisted, okay? You're not going to break any land speed records in this car, but do you want it to? Is that why you're buying an SUV? I doubt it. But it does give you a level of involvement, engagement, fizz, whatever you define that as, that I don't think is necessarily discussed in some of these reviews that I've been reading about it. And you get, you know, the sports chrono, the sports exhaust, PDK gearbox, steering wheel straight out of my 911. You know, this is a very nice place to sit with a level of theatre that you wouldn't normally get in a mini SUV. Admittedly, there's a price to pay for that. But if you're in the market for one of these, you're already going to pay that price. It's really just a case of who to. And for the sort of money that you're looking at for one of these, what else are you looking at? SQ5? Range Rover Sport? Maybe, I don't know. Used. Bigger car. Certainly not as engaging to drive. You can take that from an owner. Coming up to a bit of a dual track, we'll click it into Sport. Sport obviously firms up the suspension a bit. You get two dots of suspension. I'm on 1 dot, so I've firmed up slightly. Drop it a few gears. Nice. Give it a roundabout. Oh, I love getting cut up by a Vauxhall Zafira. What did you do today, Dale? Well, you know my favourite thing in the world? You know the Vauxhall Zafiras, they like to veer across 3 lanes of roundabout. Right. Stick it in. Great corner. I mean, damp, slippy, British roads, undulated. This thing is mopping them up. Clearly, a very good all-rounder. The question is, would you have this or a GTS? Because I think I mentioned it in my intro, the GTS would be deemed the sweet spot of most 911 range as a best of both. It's not a full GT car, but it's not the bog standard. But a firmer version of this with more power would arguably be wasted. More money, of course. And actually, as Porsche Nottingham have proved here, you can spec one of these. It'll cost you, admittedly, as all things do with Porsche when it comes to spec. But you can spec one of these within the range of the GTS. I mean, actually, if you debadge this because of the satin black alloys, arguably this would look identical to a GTS. So you can spec one of these well within looking very, very high-end, high-spec, you know, sports design kit, some nice trick interior, including some stitching. It's got an element of special. It feels very well made. It's not the size of a small Planet like you get in a Range Rover Sport or a Cayenne for that matter. It'll bang out some half decent numbers for not being the GTS with more power. And then when you do want to have a play, you can toggle, get that sports exhaust open, a few rumbles coming from that, and go. So from a driving experience, I mean, let's be fair, Porsche know what they're doing, don't they? That is no coincidence. Don't mind admitting I'm pleasantly surprised. Guys, I hope that's been useful from a first ever drive of a Porsche Macan. I mean, this one's a very special one, isn't it? Let's be fair. There's not many of these you're going to come across with this sort of equipment and kit on. I mean, even this beautiful sunroof is an option, you know. I defy anyone to try and find anything with paint to sample, all the exclusive, and everything in between. You'll be hard pressed. Huge thank you to Porsche Centre Nottingham for handing me the keys and telling me to go and find out what I think about the car, and allowing me to do that without any prejudice. You know, literally just go and give your honest opinion on it, Dale, which is not many places do that, I can tell you for free. Hence why I'm so keen to carry on doing this sort of stuff with them, because like I say, I'm allowed to give you my honest opinion on the car. I've spent the day with Porsche Nottingham doing some filming, so hopefully there's a few of the videos that might be of interest to you. If that is the case, make sure you go and check out the channel. If you are new to CMD, we've been set up as a YouTube channel with a difference. All the revenue we generate from videos like the one you're watching right now all lands into a designated bank account. All of those funds without exception, every single penny, is all donated to local, national and international charities. We have quite literally donated thousands of pounds in the last 24 months off the back of people like you watching videos like this. So if you like what you see, hit that like button, give me a subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And hopefully, I'll look forward to seeing you guys soon. Cheers.